Having talked about what seems to be responsible for our well-being, let's turn our attention to where that sense of deep contentment, and all our experience of life for that matter, actually comes from. Once we're clear on that, the rest slots into place. This video series, in reality, is a dive into learning how life works, and when that light bulb or aha moment pops into your mind, when this starts to make sense, your relationship with well-being changes. There's less going on in your mind, less internal noise, and the connection between our well-being and life seems far clearer. If we believe our well-being comes from out there, from circumstances and situations outside us, we focus our attention on sorting these out. We deal with the external parts of our life, the what's happening elements of our life, to make the inner feelings feel better. So we might set up a business, leave our partner, or change our house. We try to solve our problems by doing something. We'll work longer and harder to earn more money, to solve our financial problems, or start up a fitness regime. We try very hard to manage the outside environment to create that internal feeling of well-being we crave. That's not to say that at some point we might need to tackle these issues, but we're no longer looking to these things to create our sense of well-being. When we know that well-being comes from inside, when we really get that it's our natural state, we're not looking to having a life that looks peaceful and problem-free from the outside to get it. Think of it this way. I'm sure we've all come across people who have every material thing they could ever possibly want, with easy, comfortable lives, who are still searching for that feeling of well-being that seems to evade them. Whilst in contrast, there are people who seem to encounter problem after problem, but yet still manage somehow to maintain a calm and serene nature. We instinctively know this truth for ourselves at some level. What we're taught as we grow up is that life, circumstances, things, events, situations cause our suffering. So we experience very little well-being because we see our life as being full of problems. We're overworked, not making enough money, our relationships aren't working. It seems difficult to feel well-being when there are still parts of our life that need sorting out or fixing in some way. But this is forgetting one huge piece of the jigsaw. Because the fact is that we experience life through our thoughts, never ever the experience directly. So that means that nothing in our life can make us feel a certain way. If it did, we'd all feel the same about any particular situation, and this would never ever change. We're living in this bubble of our thoughts, a filter of thinking, never a direct experience of life. So how we feel about a situation or an event is always a reflection of our thoughts. We might be stood in a queue and our thoughts might be impatient or angry, or they could be relaxed and calm. It's the same situation, but here we have two emotional responses, which are a reflection of the thoughts going through our mind. In some situations, it's really easy to mentally step back from what's going on inside our thoughts and see this to be true. Becoming that mental observer is relatively straightforward for us. But there are other scenarios, other times when it's much more difficult, when it really feels as if our feelings are a reflection of what's true in the world. If all this makes sense, that's brilliant. But if it doesn't, just start to use your own experience to experiment and see what you notice. Take any everyday event. and see if you can step back a little mentally from what's happening. Observe your own thoughts. Chances are, if you're not in a place of well-being, you have a whirlwind of thoughts rushing through your mind. Thoughts, for example, like, I can't cope with this. This is never going to change. What will everyone think of me? What if I can't handle this? Thoughts will be rushing around in your head. Conversely, when you're in the same situation at another time and you're not feeling stressed, when you can tap into your well-being, thoughts may go along these lines. Okay, so this is the situation. What do I need to do about it? Do you see the difference? It's all internal in our head. So I really want you to get comfortable with understanding that our level of well-being does not depend on what's happening to us. It's not caused by the external environment, situations or events that happen in our life. It's more a measure of what's going on in our own heads, the stories we create, and the more we see this, the more we see it in different circumstances, the more our natural level of well-being rises. In a sense, it's already there. It just gets covered up by the noise in our minds, and as our mind naturally gets quieter, well-being becomes more obvious. So for the time being, before you move on to the next 2 videos, I suggest you spend a little time using your own life experience as an experiment and take notes of what you discover. Play with it. Don't turn this into a heavy task that's got to be completed through gritted teeth, but just lightly see what you notice, and I'll be back with you again in the next video.